Oh, Woody, Andy here again. Well, I wrote a blog post a couple of days ago about the 25th anniversary of Live Aid, and I put a link to it down there. And I've watched a couple of programmes on the TV on the BBC over here in the UK, all about, well, they were actually recorded for the 20th anniversary, but sort of two 1.5 hour documentaries all about the making of the show, how it came together, how it all started, and we all know probably the backstory to it. But the point that I was going to make in this particular video, and it led on from something else, is that things aren't always as they seem. Because that particular show went right down to the wire. There were problems going on. It was a very revolutionary show in as much as nothing like that had ever been done before. It was the first of those really big campaigning worldwide charity gigs. Yes, we'd had charity gigs before with George Harrison, the concert for Bangladesh and that sort of stuff. But this was done on, well, two continents, certainly in the UK and America, but there were events going on across the world, in Russia, in Australia that I know of, and plenty of other places right away throughout Europe, etc. as well. And to put this together, they needed to use 13 different satellites and coordinate all of this across the Atlantic for the two concerts going on in London and in Philadelphia, and this had never been done before. They'd only ever used like one satellite for any particular broadcast, probably for something like the moon landings, which I'll come on to, or something like that before. So this was a real flying by the seat of your pants type of thing, and everything, although on the day, I watched it on the day, and even if you watch the footage now, yes, there's little elements of things not going right, microphones failing when Paul McCartney comes on, or the TV system going down when the Who played, but not for very long, and nothing you wouldn't probably have expected. Now we want it all to run like clockwork, wouldn't we? And if something doesn't go quite right in this sort of days of technology and computerisation and everything, we'd all be go, oh, no, be on the phone straight away. Oh, my TV stream's gone down, or the internet's not working for 5 seconds, or something like that. We're much more impatient. Back then, 25 years ago, things were a little bit different. But I don't expect we sat there and watched that and realised how much was going on behind the scenes, how very close, literally, how very close that came to not going ahead for whatever reason. On the US side, they had lots of internal problems going on with backstage problems and that, and they even had issues like that in the UK as well. But it made me also sort of tie this up with something that happened to me not long ago. Someone said to me, Andy, you always come across as this sort of real, sort of calm person and relaxed, and you sort of sit back and all this type of thing. And I said to them, yes, it might look like that, but that's my way, in some ways, of coping with certain situations. If I can sort of present that sort of persona, it helps me, it relaxes me in a way, or hopefully it does, but it also has a bearing on the people that you're with, or that you're interacting with, should we say. Yes, I may look like that, that old analogy of the swans floating serenely along the surface, but underneath the old bloody legs are going like this type of thing, and that's quite often what it is. So things aren't always exactly as they seem. So with that Live Aid thing as well, and another one of those situations that made me think about, I mentioned the moon landings earlier on, as I remember reading the book about that. Yes, we all knew that space technology, space flight, even now, is dangerous, and we've all seen bad examples of that in the past, obviously. But we watched the moon landings, especially the Apollo 11 landings, and that's the one that really sticks in my mind. Another one of those huge events like Live Aid, a big televisual event, and something that was groundbreaking in sort of TV terms as well, and the way that that was viewed across the world. So sort of that sort of combination of things there. But having read sort of a few books and that about the Apollo, especially the Apollo 11 mission itself, they reckon there was about a 50-50 chance of those, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins actually getting back to Earth safely. It was that close. The technology was that stretched, we say, and everything was being put together. And we've probably seen that film of Apollo 13, the dramatisation, but even the original stuff, when they had to make that, I don't know what you want to call it, that piece of equipment so that they could sort of make the oxygen better and transfer the carbon dioxide or whatever it was into oxygen and move into the lunar module to keep themselves alive, literally working by the seat of their pants there and making up something literally as they were going along. And it's that old story once again about, the modern pocket calculator has got more computing power in it than the Apollo 11 mission completely, which is one of those sort of mind-blowing things. And you think back and you take these things for granted. you watch these things at the time, or you think about them afterwards, and you see Neil Armstrong on the moon, and and Buzz Aldrin bouncing around, and then you see them come back to Earth, and you think, well, that was easy, that was all right, wasn't it? It's only when you find out about these things afterwards, and a bit like the Live Aid, it all went along fairly straightforwardly, and everything seemed to click, and everything seemed to work. Sometimes it's because so many people are willing this to happen. The people that are there, like with the Apollo 11, all the people in Apollo 13, all those people back at home making that piece of equipment, working with all those sort of Heath Robinson affairs, and it's like Blue Peter thing over here. We got sticky back plastic and bits of toilet rolls, and washing up bottles and all this sort of stuff, sticking them together with bits of tape and things that you got stuck around the spaceship. Can't have much sitting around, can you? And managing to make something out of that. Sometimes it's those sort of desperate times that bring out desperate measures, should we say. It's one of the reasons that sometimes we need world wars. Sounds a bit over the top, but you think of all the technological advances that have come out of world wars. Flying, possibly in the First World War, but all the sort of radar, jet travel, the atomic bomb, etc., that came out of the Second World War, all those, the technological advances, because there's a great need for it. Something needs to be done there. There's a real sense of urgency. So maybe that's the reason that these other events, whether it be Apollo 11, Live Aid, and there's probably loads of others that you can think of, that's the reason that they do go ahead. But there's still that element of, just because you're watching it and you're watching something, doesn't mean that there's not something else going on under the scenes. My legs could be going like mad now, or my hands could be shaking or something like that, because this isn't quite what you see. Believe me, as I've always said with these sort of videos, what you see is what you get type of thing. But yes, just because someone presents a certain persona, or just because someone maybe looks in a certain way, and of course it can work the other way, they might use aggression or something as that sort of form of coping with a situation, the same way that I try and put across a sort of calm persona or a relaxed appearance or whatever. Yes, generally I am pretty much like that, but sometimes that's a bit of an act for certain reasons, to calm other people down or whatever it might be, because certain situations demand certain different ways of doing things. To say that sort of sense of urgency comes in, right, Andy, you've got to do something about this. Maybe that's my way of dealing with it. Anyway, bit of a ramble there, but something I just wanted to get across, sort of an idea. If you can think of any other examples, please let me know. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.